We are live. We are live. Praise the Lord, everyone. Thank you so much for just tuning in with us as we have this great dialogue on point today. I'm asking for everyone to just come on in as we get ready to have this great conversation. I have some great anointed men and women of God that's on this panel discussion on today, this great dialogue conversation on today. We got some seasoned oil upon us today. We got some fresh blood on here as well. And we're going to have a real serious conversation on today. We got some issues that we want to address. And since we in the climate of dealing with things as we facing in the church, this is a perfect opportunity for us to address some things and get some inner healing to take place in the church and address some issues that we keep on sweeping underneath the rug. So I'm from the mindset of let's address everything. Let's bring everything, put everything out on the table and let all the cards fall where they may lay. And so let's all address this issue together. So I got some great hosts, guests with me on today from across the United States. I really appreciate them for coming out and being with us. So what I'm going to do here is I want to ask them to go ahead and introduce themselves, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with His Grace, Bishop James A. Williams. Just tell them a little bit about yourself. Where's your ministry? How long you've been doing ministry, Bishop?
Thank you, Elder Honey. I am Bishop J. Williams II. Been in ministry since 1992, accepted my call, so just shy of 30 years. Been pastoring since 1997 and was blessed to be consecrated as a bishop in the Lord's Church in 2004. The church I pastor, Spirit and Truth Christian Ministries, is the church that we birthed, my wife, Pastor Kelly Renee, and I 23 years ago. I serve as the first assistant presider to His Grace Bishop Edgar Leo Van in the Kingdom Alliance Covenant Fellowship. And I am also the presiding prelate of Kingdom Churches United here in the city of Detroit.
Amen. Amen. He is a phenomenal preacher, phenomenal teacher, a phenomenal father and husband. I greatly appreciate this man of God for all things that he has shown me, for the way he leads in his family and in ministry. I really appreciate this man of God. I also have on here my bishop, Bishop Dora. Scott, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Good evening, Elder, and grace and peace to all of you men of God. I'm so honored to be with you tonight. I serve as founding pastor of Word Restoration Ministries in Detroit. I began this journey many moons ago. I was licensed in 1975, and that is where this journey begins. Former educator. And I am so honored to be here with you on tonight. And I believe that we're going to have great conversation and great insight that is going to be a help to each other as well as the body of Christ.
Amen. For everyone to know, she does a great, awesome job. She has been dealing with me my whole time. She's really anointed.
Well worth it. Well worth it, sir. Well worth it. Well worth it.
I love this woman of God. She has been a great asset in my life. She has taught me everything that I know and always challenging and pushing me. So for all the leaders out there, just keep on pushing and challenge your people. All right. Now to my other guest, my co-host to this segment on today, Pastor Norman Oliver. Go ahead, introduce yourself at this time.
Good evening, everyone. As you stated, my name is Pastor Oliver. I have been preaching for 12 years, since 2009, and I have been pastoring for just over 6 months at the Greater King Solomon Baptist Church here in Detroit, Michigan. And I faithfully served my pastor, Pastor Cedric Jones, at New Vision Christian Ministries, where I was licensed and ordained as well. And so I'm grateful to be here with you all on tonight.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, everyone. That is not my twin, but we do look alike. But anyway, that ain't the point right now. I love this man of God. He has been a great friend to me, a great asset as far as helping me as co-laborers with the Congress of Servants. He's been right there with me with this since the beginning. I really appreciate this man of God. All right. Let's go into the next one. My new friend, we just met recently. We did a couple of sessions together and we've been clicking ever since then. He's very funny to me because he says the same things that I be saying. We on the same page all the time. I say, yes, that's how I feel. In New Jersey, in Detroit, we feel the same way. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce yourself, my brother.
I'm Moses Parker. I've been preaching for almost 15 years, I believe. I've been a part of
in Detroit, we feel the same way.
In Paterson, New Jersey, under the auspices of the great Apostle Joe David Rudolph Sr., who is my pastor and my spiritual father. And I'm just really excited about being here. I have not founded anything. I know the OGs, they've started ministries and things like that. I don't have nothing to talk about starting, except for trouble. But just really glad to be a part of this conversation and looking forward to this dialogue tonight.
As you can tell, I'm not the only one that caused trouble. Okay, I want to make that clear. I'm not the only person out here that caused trouble. Okay,
the kingdom suffereth violence.
And you see how? All right, I see how this is how it's going to go. This is how it's going to go, and I really appreciate it. Again, thank you for each and every one of the support. Just allowing spending your time with us on today. I promise you we won't be too long. I won't allow this to be the first segment. Come back and do this again. Just do a little bit and go feed off from what we have done before and lead it up to the next one. All right. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's begin. Now, let me ask you this. I want to start with the senior leadership because we got some sanctified oil on here and we got some seasoned oil. So with all the seasoned oil up here, I want to start with them. Now, during your time when you went through the steps of becoming a minister, you know, back in the day when you became a minister, you got to do the work. You know how we used to do it in the PAW. You got to go clean up them bathrooms. You got to shovel the snow in front of the church. You got to help mother at our house do some things for her, help her do her groceries. Now, I want to ask you this. During that time and compared this time, what are some of the things that you have concern of with today's preachers as they being brought up compared to when you was brought up? Either one, Bishop James A. Williams or Bishop Scott. You know what? Let's go with this. Here's the tip. You know what? Ladies first.
Ladies first.
You see how I did that, Bishop? Ladies first.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's National Women Month. Let's go ahead.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, let me start here. You are right. You are right, Elder Carlton, that service is what we were taught. Nor did we buck for the opportunity to preach. That was just not it. We were comfortable to sit. Let me start here. We wanted to sit and we wanted to learn. We wanted to learn. We wanted to serve and considered it an honor to serve the people and to serve our leader. And that didn't mean everything always went right, but even what was wrong, that was a matter between us and the leader, not us, the people, and the leader. I think that although this generation has fallen off from that, it seems to me, and I'm sure Bishop Williams can elaborate even more on this, but it seems to me that there is a fascination of glamour with preaching. I am the preacher, to have a certain seat, to have a title. You wouldn't even think about sitting on the front row because you knew at offering time, your pastor was going to look for you to be giving, and you better have some money in your pocket because you just wouldn't be a leader just sitting. That just didn't happen. And I think now, in short, that this generation treats ministry the way they treat everything else. I want it and I want it now. I want it and I want it now. That's the way I'll sum that up. I don't want to have to wait. All I hear from them is the Lord is doing a quick work. No, it's okay. It's okay to go to school. It's okay to have a career. And Bishop Williams can tell you there was life before this, so that there is life after this.
Yes.
Many of them are trying to make their career and their livelihood solely on the church. Well, Elder Carlton, Generation Z doesn't give like the baby boomers. We would save, we'd hold our money. You know, we were taught that. So yeah, I want it and I want it now.
Oh, so okay, hold on, Bishop. Before you go, I know you want to say something because she did some couple of things in there that I want the Pastor Norman and Mose Parker want to think about. I want it and I want it right now. And then she also says, we ain't think about sitting on the front row because if you ain't had the money, don't even think about it. And also the most important aspect, a career, a life before doing the work. Having a career, because I know a lot. We are seeing a lot of preachers our generation trying to make a career out of ministry. So, okay, go ahead, Bishop Williams. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for putting Bishop Scott out there first. She has been preaching longer than me, so it's only right.
It's only right.
You know, I agree with absolutely everything she said. And one of the things that I think about often, I compare what has happened in the church with what has happened in Black families and the way we do parenting now. My generation and the generation after me had the mentality that we weren't going to treat our children like Mama and them treated us. So we raised up a generation of children who would allow their father to come home from work and have to cut the grass and shovel the snow because they couldn't get the designer shoes that he bought for them scuffed up in the snow. There's this sense of entitlement. But the reality is that anything that you do not work for, you do not value and you do not appreciate. So when I ride through the neighborhood that I used to live in, and I'm gonna turn the corner in just a minute. When I ride through the neighborhood I used to live in, which was when I was coming up, Conant Gardens, and when you drove through the neighborhood, you understood why it was called Conant Gardens. When I think of what those homes looked like, and I drive through that neighborhood now and see the lack of care, see just decay all through that neighborhood. And I ask myself, what happened? Well, what happened is that when I was living there, the people of color who lived in those homes, they had worked and scraped, saved their money from the factories, and many of those women from working as domestics to buy a home in a prestigious neighborhood. So they had pride of ownership. Those lawns were always manicured. They made sure that every year when springtime came, they power washed the outside of those homes or painted them or did whatever they needed to do. They passed off the scene and left those homes to their offspring.
Lord Jesus.
Who never worked for them, who just grew up there, who never scuffled, who never struggled, who never paid a note. And so they did not care for those homes because they had invested nothing in them. Now, let me turn the corner and come to ministry. We have raised up a generation in ministry who literally feels that they can just come from the pew to the pulpit without having cleaned toilets, without driving the church van, without ever serving in Sunday school or whatever the teaching arm of their particular ministry is, without ever showing themselves apt to study or apt to teach. But I got a good voice. And when we did the concert and I introduced the song, the people got with me. I'm called to preach. I can do this. And so I remember the old preachers, you would walk in their office and tell them that you were called to preach. And if they weren't already convinced of that, they'd send you back, tell you to pray some more, study some more. You tell somebody that now, and they're just going to go to another church where somebody else will just let them preach the Sunday after they join.
Yes, sir.
And so we have pulpits that are filled with profiteers who have never had to work in the kingdom. They have no appreciation for what the volunteers in the church do because they were never those volunteers. I could go on ad nauseum, but suffice it to say, I agree with Bishop Scott, and I just think that the level of service that we had to render is what gave us the discipline, the understanding, and the love of what real ministry is. When I was consecrated as a bishop, my consecrator, my co-consecrator, Bishop C.O. Morton, looked me in the eye and said, "We've talked a lot about you being a prince of the church, but I need you to understand that you are the chief servant." And that is what we have lost in ministry. I think if we emphasize the ideal of servitude, the line of those looking to have hands laid on them would be a lot shorter.
Ooh.
Ooh, Bishop.
Ooh.
Bishop.
That's fire, Bishop.
Bishop.
Oh my
Bishop,
God.
Bishop. All right.
Ooh.
Now we got the season. We got their thoughts. Now let's go in because now I gotta put my other brothers in. They are part of my generation. I feel like I came from the generation of old school because I came out of the PAW, which you ain't think about preaching. You better serve before you do anything. That's my mindset on everything. Don't ask me to do anything unless you ready. I want to see your service before I see you being a service to the people. I need to see
Yes,
that.
sir.
That's just my mindset. So, Pastor Norman, let's go with you then, Mose. I'm coming right after you. Go you next, right after him. All right, let's go right in.
Well, I agree with everything that both bishops have already said, and I can speak from personal experience to say for it to absolutely be true. Before I stepped foot in preaching or pastor or anything like that, my grandmother raised us in the church. I was born and raised in the Baptist church. We didn't have the option to go to church. We didn't have the option to sing. We didn't have the option to serve. If there was a Sunday where somebody needed some tissue because the nurse is on the other side taking care of somebody else, my granny told me to get up and get the tissue for them. It wasn't, I don't want to do it. They doing too much over there. They might hit me because they shouting. It was get up, get the tissue, and do it. So for me, we didn't have the choice of whether or not to serve growing up. And so it was either you do it or you don't. And I'm talking about, I grew up where we had Sunday school at 9:30 and we were there for it. And, we didn't understand what was going on. We had to sit up proper in Sunday school. Sunday school ended at 10:45. Service started at 11 a.m. We were there, go to the bathroom, be back in here before the deacon crack open that devotional song. And sit through that service Sunday morning at 11, get out at 2:30. And let's go to Boston Market somewhere real quick because you got afternoon service at 3:30. So do it all
Afternoon
over again.
service. Yes, sir.
Every Sunday. Wasn't nobody else coming.
Sir.
It was just going to be y'all there. Pastor may calling anybody to sing a song at any given moment. You don't know what's coming to Sunday afternoon service, but you better be there. And that's how it was. And it was after that, go home, get your clothes ready for school, lights out. Wasn't no plan on Sunday, none of that. And so that's how I was raised growing up. And so, but even that was critical, even for where I am now. One of the Grace, I'll say, as I said earlier, has been a pastor for just 6 months. That period at my church where I was licensed and ordained at under Pastor Cedric Jones, that was critical to me. And so as Bishop Williams was saying, is that no one wants to go through the process. Nobody wants to go through the preparation. And I can honestly, wholeheartedly say that at my church that I served at under my pastor, I did everything and had hands in every role. I mean, I've counted the money. I've served as an usher.
You did.
Served in the praise team, and then had to come right down and conduct service, preach when the pastor ain't there, preach sometimes when the pastor there, teach Bible school, open the church, close the church, shovel the snow in front of the church because we didn't have the money to pay for a snowblower or pay for someone to come and clear. Listen, I've done it all, but all of that has prepared me for where I am now.
Yeah.
And I say that if I would have jumped, and I'll share this, when I was about 3 years into preaching, someone offered me the opportunity to take over their church. They were going to retire and offered me the opportunity to take over their church. And I could have said yes to it, but I knew for myself that I wasn't ready, that I'll be doing a disservice to the people, to God, and myself to try to take on that. So I stayed at my home church for another 9 years and served there. And even still now, I don't dare say that I'm totally prepared. There's some things now where I call my pastor and be like, okay, somebody didn't tell me about this going to happen. Like this is a whole different ball game now. So, I read books about leading from the second chair and all of that, but it's a totally different ball game when some things, I can say, oh, well, I don't have to worry about that. Senior pastor going to take care of that. Well, now I'm the senior pastor, so I can't push it off on somebody. I got to deal with it. And so, but the preparation that I had, those years of serving, and I think that if we, especially my generation, understand that, yes, I understand the desire, the urge to want to go forward. You have a calling on your life, but you have to be willing to go through the process, though, and endure that process, because it wasn't always easy. And, we're talking about serving with conflict. I'll say, and I've shared it with my pastor, so it's no secret that there was a lot of times that I didn't agree with what my pastor said, or even agree with what he did. But I understood, though, that whether what he's doing is right or wrong, there's something that I can learn from.
Hold on, Pastor. Hold on. Before you go there, before you transition, before you go there, hold on. We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back. Hold that one.
Carlton,
Yes.
I'm so sorry, but can I take just a quick moment of senior privilege here, since you done put it out that I'm seasoned and stuff? Pastor Oliver, when that retiring pastor offered you the option to take over his church, had he first had a conversation with your pastor?
Wow.
Because see, Bishop Scott, we talk a lot about things that the generation coming behind us do, but a lot of these attitudes and bad habits, they were taught by supposedly senior statesmen who were operating out of order. Pastor Oliver, I didn't hear your answer. Did he check with your pastor before he gave you that proposition?
No, he didn't.
So he was out of order.
For me.
Right.
He was out of order. And a whole lot of young pastors, I appreciate your wisdom, sir, because a whole lot of young pastors would have jumped at it. But that man of God was out of order.
You're right.
To approach a young preacher with that kind of proposition without first calling his pastor and asking his pastor if you were ready.
I agree 100%.
See, now y'all see, okay, we got two conversations we got to deal with.
I'm sorry.
That because
no, I ain't sorry.
He said what he said, okay? Or he said what he said, like Canada Dry is better than Vernors. That's a whole nother subject. But that ain't the point.
Don't start with me, Carlton.
I'm just messing with Bishop Williams. He knows I'm just messing with him. All right. Now, Pastor Oliver, he just stated something. We're gonna hold that conversation just yet. We're gonna hold that one because we gotta talk about that. Dealing with the leadership aspect when you're upset, when things are in the ruffle place, when it's unease, because we all been there. If you have not been there, wait a while.
Just wait. It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It's going to be Sundays where you be like, you know what? Y'all can keep it. All right. But let's go, Minister Parker. Go ahead. I need you to get your rebuttal in. Go ahead, get your rebuttal.
Oh, I don't think I have a rebuttal, man. I'm just going to actually concur. I came up very similar to Pastor Oliver, man. I've been in my church over 30 years in the same ministry. I think I've served in every capacity, probably except for the mother's board, and they probably would have tried to put me there too. I've served, I've served under my leader. I've served again in various capacities, and I didn't have an option growing up. My mother and father did not give me a choice where the church was optional. It was so bad that any sports that took place on a Sunday, I couldn't participate in. So I could have been a great football player, but we will never know because I couldn't play football on Sundays. And so because my mom was a stickler that nothing is going to take you away from the house of God. And so I grew up with those values of service. And so it's always been a part of me. And so again, serving in my ministry, again, like Pastor Oliver, there were times as I got older and a little bit more mature in ministry that I have not always agreed with my pastor. I was a little hard-headed. I've gone through several disciplinarian seasons where I had to have my behind sat down. So again, we have not always agreed, and there were times I felt like, oh, I'm out of here, I'm gone. But the maturity aspect is it wasn't God moving me, it was my emotions. And so
Wow.
at the end of the day, we have to be able to take discipline. We have to be able to take conflict and disagreement.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Now, you said a word now. You said a word that's not a lot. It's not used a lot in today's church, and that's discipline.
Yeah.
Now, let me get with the senior bishops on here because I know we got to talk about this discipline, because discipline in today's church, I believe, I'm going to say it, a lot of senior pastors, a lot of senior bishops are scared to do it because of the fact they're afraid to lose membership.
Right.
They are afraid to lose their praise and worship leader who sings phenomenal, but know they are out of order, scared to discipline them. Mm-hmm. All those aspects. So let's talk about that discipline aspect, because how do you discipline this generation? I'm talking about our generation, coming from Pastor Oliver, who's 6 months in. The people he's going to lead, they're going to have no church training, not at all. Right. So how he's going to discipline them? So let's get that aspect. How are we going to address the discipline that is needed in today's church?
What?
Go ahead. You can say it. Go ahead.
Who's that for?
No, for everyone. For everyone.
Oh, okay. I'll let one of the seasoned.
That's wisdom. That's wisdom.
You took a deep breath. I thought you was getting ready to say something.
I was listening.
Listen, well, I have to be careful about what I say because I may be a little different than most. One of the reasons I believe that our ministry has stayed, one of the reasons that our ministry has stayed relatively small. Let me just throw this out. Small is not a bad thing. We really got to get that out of our head in the church. But in any case, it's because I'm going to exercise discipline within our congregation. Now, you cannot discipline people who are not certain of your love for them. I think when younger people in ministry attempt to discipline others when they have never been disciplined themselves, then they just tend to come down with a heavy hand. I believe that as pastors, our first responsibility is to love the flock, to love the sheep, to develop the kind of relationship with them that when discipline is necessary, they will understand that it comes from a place of love. Discipline and abuse is two different things. So discipline should be conducted whenever possible behind closed doors. If in fact your desire is to help the individual grow and learn from the mistakes they've made, then that's a teaching moment, and that can be done in private. But discipline is necessary. You know, we live in a day where everybody in your church wants to say that you're their spiritual father or their spiritual mother. The reality is that from time to time, I make it clear to the people of spirit and truth. If I haven't had to check you yet, then we're really not sure about that relationship.
Right.
Because if I cannot discipline you, then I am not your spiritual father.
That's right.
I'm the person that you like to hear preach from time to time.
Right.
I'm your
that I'm your
right.
preacher.
I'm your preacher. Right.
But I'm not your father unless I can discipline you.
Right.
And so, but again, and I'll stop. But again, the challenge is that we understood discipline because we came from disciplined homes. We understood discipline because we were disciplined on the block. I can still, in my mind, go up one side of Lumpkin and down the other, tell you almost every family that lived there, and the people on the block who I knew had permission from my parents to tan my hide when and if necessary. They literally would. They would beat you, send you home, and have called your mother on that Grand Prince's phone before you got there.
That's right.
And they were waiting. They were waiting to hook you up on the other side. So we were accustomed to discipline. So discipline in the church did not seem a foreign thing. It is complicated now by the fact that people aren't being disciplined anywhere, in the school, in the home, anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to teach people something that is totally foreign to them.
That's true. You know, Bishop, I was going to say, to piggyback on that, disciplined in the home, disciplined on the job.
Yes.
You would show up on time. You would do a full day's work.
What
then
did you say, Bishop Scott? You actually came to work to work?
Oh yeah, came to work because there was an honor in working. There was an honor that you had a job, that you were earning your wages. Discipline in school. And I know now, you know, hearing this conversation, a lot of people would disagree with that. You know, now we're under the mindset of, you know, you better not touch my child. We've got parents fighting children's fights, you know, because he took the ball from little Johnny. Now you go down and now you want to chastise little, you know, little Johnny's friend. They're both 7 years old. Kids have fallouts. They're going to get mad. They're going to take their ball and go home, but they'll be back tomorrow. Mom, can I go play with Johnny? We don't give any space for that. And so the people that were disciplining, there was a trust system there. Well, as you say, now, when you come from households now where there is no trust, where there is no governing, and so then they come in the church, and now you're supposed to be able to do all of that, even with the terminology. Elder Carlton, when we use terms like mother, or we call them son, or we call them daughter, well, those are spiritual terms of endearment. But if these individuals haven't been mothered, haven't been fathered, have no relationship with brother and sister. Those are offensive terms. If you have not built that relationship with them, yeah, you might be calling them that, but that's offensive to them. They're not there. So when we talk about discipline, I think it's important that just as a parent that has multiple children, you understand the personality of every child is different. Some of your children, you can just give a scolding word, they fall right back in line. Other children, you can threaten them. I am going to do this. I am going to take that away. They fall back in line. But then there's that other group, the other group that even yet with the promise, even yet with the spanking, the whipping, whatever you want to call it, the belt, the switch. Oh, glory be to God. But, and some people would consider that even in that form abusive. But we understood that there were some children that you had to put fire to them regularly. When you talk about the disciplined home, and I know Bishop Williams will remember this, your parent could look at you across the sanctuary and just make eye contact, never verbalize one word, just eye contact. Well, what we didn't understand then that I understand now, the discipline at home gave an avenue for a look. So I recognize that my spiritual children, and I say this to Elder Carlton all of the time, what does my face look like? Because I don't want them to feel that because my face is twisted or turned, now I'm angry with them. If they've done something, let's try to deal with that in private. So I am learning now that every last one of them is different. Every last one of them, the discipline is different. Elder Carlton, there are some conversations that you and I can have with each other I wouldn't dare have. I wouldn't think about having with some of the others, because I recognize after that conversation, they would not be able to recuperate from that. But I understand that we have developed a relationship such that we change spots, if you will, from time to time, and we can do that. My commitment to Elder Carlton is I won't leave you. If you don't leave me, I'm here. I'm here. Now, we might get mad, we might fuss, but I'm here. I'm here. The good me, the bad me, the right me. Okay, you wrong today, but I'm here. So, and even as children, you got to remember, sometimes children feel like parents don't discipline. We do. Sometimes you don't see all of the discipline. Some of them, you've got to pull out so much stuff before you can even get to the discipline. You get a preacher that comes in, they've been grown since 10. Now they're 25, they're in the ministry, and they are a hot mess, gifted, but messed up. You've got to weed out all of that before you can even get to the discipline. If you're trying to do it for their good, as Bishop Williams said, if you're trying to do it for their good, they didn't come from any area where they've been disciplined. They walk away from everything. They have no anchors anywhere, not in a job, not in school. They have no anchors. You've got to work through all of that. If we don't do that, then we're just like our forefathers that would stand you up, embarrass you right in front of everybody, and you better not leave.
Absolutely. And I can say that growing up at my childhood Baptist church, afternoon service was really the pastor take his privilege and call you out and make you stand up in front of the whole church, tell what you did, and you got to apologize for it. He would stand there and wait till you did. I mean, he was in front of the whole church. That was his form of discipline. And unfortunately, it ran a lot of people away. And for some, of course, we can say it's because they felt embarrassed, and rightfully so. Some of the things that were shared with the congregation should have never been shared. And so I feel like, in my view, that a line was crossed in several of those instances where private conversations was brought in front of the congregation that should have never been, that should have been handled behind closed doors. And so brought things out to the front and to everyone. So that person felt embarrassed and left. And so my whole family, we went to the same church, and me and my sister, we often talk about and say it, that if everybody who came and sat down in those chairs who joined that church, if half the people who gave the pastor their right hand, got dipped in the water, went through new membership class, did all that stuff, if half of them was still at my childhood home church, it would be a mega church. But because that accountability was there, and by all means, sometimes it wasn't given in the best way, but you live and you learn. But that accountability wasn't there, and I would say it was not always on the leadership. Sometimes the people, as been already said, that some people just don't want to be accountable. We were very structured. We knew what we had to wear every Sunday, each month, the same color. First Sunday, black and white. Second Sunday, black and red. Third Sunday, black and gold. Fourth Sunday, black and purple. Summer months hit, switch from black to white. Everybody knows this. Fifth Sunday, wear whatever you want to wear. And you have people come in who sing in the choir, who didn't have it on, and then get mad when the pastor call you out. Well, you know what you're supposed to wear, but it was just natural rebellion. And so people got mad and left and got influenced about it. And so it's really, nobody wants to be held accountable. And even for our generation, you have people who just want to do whatever they want to do. Nobody has patience anymore. Nobody wants to be questioned, disciplined. You can just up and leave. If your pastor retires or your pastor leave and he don't put you in the seat, you get mad, leave, and want to go try to start your own church. Well, ain't nobody lay hands on you, ain't nobody ordained you, but you think that because you got a Bible and can preach that you have the right to become leadership. So nobody wants to be challenged or disciplined anymore. So people just think they can do whatever they want to do. And unfortunately, for our generation, for my generation, I'm seeing that even now, where I am with pastoring, is that's part of the issue, is that people don't want to be held accountable. And so I think that was a great question to ask to the senior leaders on here, as a new pastor, how do we deal with that? How do you discipline people that never have? I know you said that we love them, that we start off with love, and I wholeheartedly believe that. One of the members at my church said to me, Pastor, why you ain't took them out yet? Because clearly they ain't doing the work, they ain't doing the job. Why you saying just got rid of them and removed them? And I said, I gotta love the people first. I said, I gotta be able to love them. I said, if I come in and just say, you out, you out, you out, and who am I? Am I really helping the people, or am I doing a disservice to myself at the same time too? So I think that, everybody's different, and it just can't be how I was in my childhood. There just can't be one rule for everybody. You have to handle people individually. Everybody's circumstances is different. And, as I stated, some things need to stay behind closed doors. Some discipline will need to happen in front of other people, because at the end of the day, you can have that nice conversation in private, but then you get in front and it's a totally different conversation. And so now you've not only said you've like almost flipped on the people. They feel they could trust you. They felt like they had to confide in you, and now you done blast the information out of everybody. So it's a tricky situation. So I'm still new to it, so I'm gonna be quiet. But I just feel like, it can't be just one rule to everybody. There has to be something has to be individually based and handled. And as Bishop Williams said, definitely behind closed doors.
Right.
Well, Elder Carlton, I wanted to interject this to Pastor Norman. I wanted to say this. I think that because you are now in a different era of pastoring, and I think for myself and Bishop Williams, we are what I consider transitional era pastors, because we come from that other era into this. Even when you talk about somebody who has served in a position who is not being effective, well, there are a couple of things we have to look at. We don't know why the former pastor even had them in that spot. The pastor could have had them there to keep them close, to keep an eye on them. The pastor could have had them there because there was nobody else to be placed in that position. I mean, we don't know, and I'm not justifying any of them or saying all or any of them are bad choices. Now you come in as the new guy and they want you to make everybody walk a chalk line, straighten out everybody, fix everything. That makes no sense. To be quite frank with you, and I know the church doesn't do it, but I think it would be a great idea that anybody, before they were placed in positions, that everybody had a psyche valve, to be quite frank with you. We've got people who are serving in positions, who are schizophrenic, who are bipolar, ADHD. And I'm not saying those things as pointing fingers and scorning, but what I'm saying is, if you have a schizophrenic greeter, you have a schizophrenic greeter, one Sunday with their medication, they might be good. Without their medication, the next Sunday they could be hearing voices. You don't know. And so as the Black church, we have totally eliminated the whole mental side of this. And again, I am no way making fun of individuals who are schizophrenic or bipolar or anything like that. I am not. But I do think that we need to find that out. You need to find out if your leaders are suffering from abandonment issues. So when you move them from a spot, you might say, you know what? I know you want to work in security, but you'll fly off the handle. We come outside, 3 or 4 people could be shot because you thought they got near a car, but you're real good at working the audio board. You might be a good audio tech. Well, moving them from one place to another may read something totally different to them. So I know we don't do it. I'm not saying that it would happen, but I don't think that it would be a bad thing to do, because again, the more that we dig in and we learn the personalities of these people, then we understand they might be able to take a corrective word from the pastor, but they can't take a corrective word from the number 2 person. We need to know that. And for so long, we've eliminated that whole side of it. So when it comes to discipline, it's not just cut and dry. It's not just black and white. I see logic and understanding on both sides. Yes, some people don't want to be disciplined. Yes, some are lazy. All of those things apply. That's applicable. But on the leadership side, some have been abusive, as Bishop Williams said. Some have been dogmatic. Some have been almost, and here's my own word, cultish. You do it my way, you follow me. They're more consumed with the people following them than following Jesus. So we got to take all of that into consideration.
Hey, Parker, now I know you don't have this issue in New Jersey.
Right.
You don't have this issue. I know you don't. You not possibly go through the same thing that we're referring to over here in Michigan. I know you're not going through that, Parker. So if you can just imagine going through this. Hey, you muted. Hey, you muted. Parker, you muted. I can't hear you.
My bad. Okay.
I see he was being dark skinned. Man,
That's
come on.
what it was. That's
good.
what it
You gotta
was.
make it look good.
Man. Dark skin, man.
Yeah, I know. All right. I know you don't got none of those issues and everything. Can you imagine going through this? Let's say you are the new appointed pastor. Would you implement a psych eval to your leadership team?
I probably would not go that far, right? Literally, I may do it, figuratively. However, I don't think I would go that far. I think one of the key terms that when we talk about pastoring is the call, leadership is the skill set, and so from a leadership perspective, I think sometimes we undervalue relationship and trust. And so when you come into a ministry, one thing my pastor talked about, and again, I've been with my pastor for years. He said, whenever a pastor comes in and takes over a church, if they're taking over a ministry and they are a new leader, he said they probably should not allow any changes for the first 12 months. He used the phrase, he says, let the sheep smell you first. And how I take that is that he talks, it has the element of let them build the relationship and allow them to trust you. Because once you develop that relationship and that trust, then you can start to implement, because now they're trusting your leadership. John Maxwell, he talks about leadership, and when he's a leadership specialist, and when he talks about relationship building, trust is a critical point within any relationship. And so once people can trust you, then you can start implementing and changing and adapting and modifying certain areas and even discipline, because they know that it's coming from a place of love. They know it's coming from a place of development and wanting them to be better. And so if I'm coming in, my first approach is to establish a relationship and actually get to know those individuals. So then if I come across someone who I might say, you know what, they need a psych eval, then I can take those particular measures once I've been able to get to know a person, um, as opposed to me, as opposed to kind of rendering a psych eval for every person. But I would definitely really implement, just try to get to know them and allow them to get to know me, right? Because I'm coming in as a new leader. They're going to, I want them to follow me because I'm going to be implementing vision, and we're going to have strategic implementation, meetings and all these types of things. So I need them to be able to trust me. So I think I would take that route of building a relationship and allowing the people to trust me, um, before I start to implement, make changes, any major one. I mean, if there's some things that are going on, of course you have to make some decisions, but any major changes to the culture and those types of things, I will probably wait and give it some time for people to kind of accept me as the shepherd.
Right, right. So let me go with this to Bishop Williams. He's been sitting over there patiently. I want him to go ahead and tackle this because I'm pretty
I,
sure.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna implement the psyche eval at my church without tearing it up. I'm thinking right now, man.
See, that was where I was going. That's where I was going because you've been doing ministry for 40 years, 40 plus years. I'm just messing with him. And I know you've seen the changes in your ministry throughout the years. So, and with the changes of your ministry, as far as the church, how did you address the issue with the leadership from one particular age to the next? Did your development change, your tactics change, or did your or you just grown from those examples or experience and just adapted from that?
Well, let me say that some lessons are hard learned. I almost uh, destroyed the church that I pastor because I had an expectation that every crop of leaders, if you will, would function at the same level that the best crop of leaders did.
Right.
I have been blessed, as Bishop Scott knows well, and as she has, I have been blessed to truly father some phenomenal young pastors and leaders in the body of Christ. To think that individuals who are pastoring very large congregations, very successful congregations, were birthed out of our quote unquote small ministry is a real blessing. They were very aggressive. They tried to finish every assignment early so that I could give them another assignment. They were hungry to learn. They accepted discipline well. They excelled in everything they did. And they thought a lot like me, meaning that they thought about ministry all the time. But ministry is transitional. If you're a father in ministry, you must understand that everybody cannot stay with you forever. Or a mother in ministry, as Bishop Scott, that you are preparing some people to leave. When they leave, you must take a breath and learn the capacity of the individuals who are left that you must use in leadership. You will, if you're not careful, when you're not getting what you're accustomed to getting, you'll just take over everything, which means that you're going to burn yourself out, because every pastor will learn at some point that the people will allow you to do whatever you are willing to do. So if you want to work yourself to the bone and kill yourself early, people will let you do that. What you must learn to do is take every individual that God has given you at face value, to learn them, to learn what their strengths and weaknesses are, to cultivate the gift that is in them, and to understand that what God is requiring from you at any season as the leader, watch me here, is in large part determined by who he gives you to work with in that season. So, there comes a point in time where you have to say to God, okay, I cannot do with this crowd right now what I did with that last crowd. They're just not there. So help me to get them to the place where they have that capacity. That's difficult because as a leader, you want to be firing on 100 all the time. And sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and realize that you can't expect people to operate beyond their capacity. And your role as the senior pastor is to help build their capacity. I hope I answered the question that you asked me, Carl.
No. Are you answering?
Okay.
You talked about, you shared something very personal. I believe a lot of people don't know, but you have birthed out a lot of great ministries out of your church. Some phenomenal ministries in the Metro Detroit area. They are moving phenomenal, and you can see the residue of you in them. Wow. You see that. You be like, oh, they got that from their daddy. And that's one of the things that I be looking at. I'm like, I want someone to make sure they say, oh, that he got that from Bishop Scott. That's my goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's who I've been under. That's who I've been under. I don't want them to see anyone else. I like, no, that's my leader. I don't want them to see TD Jakes in me. I don't know that man. I know Bishop Scott. That's who I serve under. You answered the question perfectly, and I really appreciate that for sharing that. Bishop Scott also is with you as well, seeing the transitioning over the time in ministry. Now you got Pastor Oliver here. You got Minister Parker, who's we all sitting in the second seat. Well, Pastor Norman is not in the second seat no more. He's in the front seat. So now he got those leadership roles. He got to answer to that. What you say?
I'm in the 17th seat, literally.
Oh, okay, you moved back. Okay, good.
Yeah, way back.
You went back. You went to the 17th seat.
I'm way back.
That's all right, Minister Moses.
Right.
We need some people that's sitting on the 17th row.
That's it.
That can handle 17th row and back. We need that. I'm telling you, we need it. Listen, I'll take 30 people that'll sit 17th row and back. And you don't have that to worry about, because one thing for sure, now all you have to do is cover 1 through 16. And even that within itself is a weight lifted, and it's going to take weight off of the leaders that now have to cover 1 through 16. That's going to make a big difference. It's going to make a big difference in the flow between the second person in that seat and the senior leadership. So 17th row is not a bad place to be in at all. And I know that we devalue that often, but it is not a bad place to be. In fact,
Pastor, the row you sit on.
Yes, pastor that row, because I'm going to tell you honestly, Moses, if my pastor, Bishop London, calls me today, I'm like, yes, sir. What do you need? What do you need me to do?
Right.
And he'll say, well, I know you're pastoring. Okay, I got that. But guess what? I don't have a problem with going to take care of my pastor.
Right.
Because I realize that I've tried to pour everything that I have from me into Elder Carlton, and I know he can steer the ship. And I'm not worried about the ship being steered. I recognize, and here's another thing, as we teach and we train, we have to leave room for every turn on the water that they're guiding this ship They may not turn it at the same point that we do, but they'll still get that ship to the shore. And we have to be okay with that. And many times I think that we want it to look identical. Bishop Williams said something very valuable there. It's not going to look identical, but you'll see enough of it to know that your hand has been there. So I'm more concerned about the ship getting to the shore now versus it looking like I was still on the ship when I'm not there.
Yeah.
Because shifts are going
Bishop.
to happen. Yeah.
I had to learn that. And it was a process for me to learn to value wherever I am and to be able to influence whatever area I'm a part of, especially as I matured in ministry and felt the greater call, felt the passion and the desire to have, I'll use the term or the phrase, to have a more prominent place of influence, because I could see the potential of the ministry and where we're trying to go. And it got to a point where it would frustrate me. And until I got to a place where I realized wherever I am is where God has me. And so I have to function and again, I've served in many capacities, but I had to get to the point, I had to learn that wherever God has me, I have to function at full capacity there until God sees fit to change my assignment or whatever the case may be. But I had to learn that, Bishop. So you're absolutely right. We need 17th row, 17th spot. Those areas are equally as important. And our job, wherever we are, is to be absolutely who God's called us to be in that particular context, wherever He has us.
Well, I think for a long time, the church has devalued the person on the 17th row. I think the frustration, I think that as you develop a frustration, it is out of a love for the ministry. It is out of a love for your leader because you know that your leader longs for it to be the best. So you carry the weight of your leader on your heart. So when people see you frustrated, they think it's personal. It's not even personal. It's not personal at all. But the church, we have devalued the person on the 17th row, and they are equally important. We've devalued certain areas of ministry. And so when those things are not in place, the people that value it the most, when we don't see it, the pastors, well, who's going to cover this? Who's going to cover that? They have no idea that that person on the 17th row that's covering, it allows the pastor to take a deep breath.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bishop.
No, I'm done.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor Oliver. If I could piggyback on Bishop Scott again, one of the most important things that was ever said to me is, remember that you don't pastor everybody in that church.
Woo, yes, sir.
That there are pastors, watch this now, there are pastors in the church who will never preach a sermon. They've got 4 or 5 people in that church that every time something happens, for whatever reason, those 4 or 5 people look at them. The man of God told me, you got to find out who the pastors are and pastor them and allow them to pastor the rest of the people. See, the ego-driven pastor,
wow,
who feels that he has to have his or her hand in everything, that everyone there must be tied into the cult of personality. What you do is you restrict the ministry to what you can see and touch at any given point in time. You've got to be willing, as Bishop Scott says, to value other people in the ministry so that they can help you, even during difficult times. There have been times in our ministry where I know that there were groups of people who were upset with decisions that I made. But there were other people in the ministry whose opinions they valued, who said to them, listen, I've been here a long time. I've learned to trust Bishop. When you don't understand what he's doing, just be quiet for a minute, because girl, let me tell you, I had one young lady to say to a group of people, y'all need to watch what you say, because I did that a few years ago, and I had to come back to and apologize to Bishop because the Lord was leading him. So
Wow.
If I can identify who those people of influence are, those pastors within the congregation, and pastor them, then sometimes when the congregation as a whole does not understand what I'm doing, those other pastors can step in the gap for me. But if I'm constantly putting my thumb on them and saying, look here, I don't know what you think you're doing, but there ain't but one pastor in this house. Well, yeah, that's going to probably come back and bite you, because there is going to be conflict in the church. And when there is conflict in the church, you need people who have learned how to trust. I saw Bishop Scott put that in the comments. Trust is important. You need people who have learned how to trust you to go to bat for you.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on the part about the 17th row person. I just had a conversation with, before I got here, this church already had a custodian on staff here. And he getting paid good now. I was like, when I saw how much he's getting paid, I said, no, wait a minute now. Like I said, custodian getting paid like this? But of course, I didn't change anything, but I eventually, in having conversations and learning the staff, learning people, I had a conversation with him, and just told him thank you. And I told him thank you to say, you may seem like you low on the totem pole. I said, but when you really think about it, especially in times like this, I told him, said, you have one of the most important positions in the church. I said, you're responsible for sanitizing, cleaning the church. I said, we can come in here, shout, bump all day we want. And if the church ain't clean, sanitized, there's other issues that we have to deal with. So I was just telling him, like, hey, I appreciate you because, people don't see who mops the floor, who keeps the bathrooms clean, who wipes down the elevator buttons or the handrails come in a church with disinfectant. People don't see that after service is over, that you're in here with the machine going down every pew sanitizing. People don't see that. And so I was going to say, you're valuable. I said, if we ever, for any reason had to consider, making adjustments to salaries or whatever the case may be, I said, yours would be one of the last ones I want to touch, because you're valuable to the ministry, not just because we paying you, but because of what your role is to the people. And I said, especially at this time, I said, what you do takes a burden off of me. I said, my church, they were already having service before I got here. And so when I became pastor, I was nervous about it. I said, wait a minute, we in the pandemic. Why are we open? Like, and this is when the numbers were much higher. And so, my thing, I was concerned knowing that I have some elderly members here. But once I got in and saw, some of the process that was in place, I felt a little bit better about it. But it was because of what I saw that he did, his diligence with the sanitizing and cleaning. And so I totally agree that we cannot forget about those who may not be on the church board or in the deacon and trustee role. Some of those people who we never see who serve in the ministry, they're valuable and they have purpose, and they help the ministry flow and go. And I'll say this for me and my servant at my church. When the old building that we had on Grand River, we was, off of Main Street, so the city would come down, we would clear the snow, or I would shovel the snow rather, off the sidewalk, and the city would come down, it's 3 lanes, and they clear, they're gonna throw that snow right back up on the sidewalk. And so then it's looking like, okay, like, how these people gonna get in? Because we park on Grand River. And so, as Bishop Williams said, when you have a heart to serve, and when you are trying to do things to help the ministry and also take that burden off your leader, I can't think of one time to where my pastor had to come down to the church and shovel the snow and to clear the snow for us to get into the building. And, whether I had to preach that morning, and start the service. Sometimes we might start 5 minutes late because I'm outside clearing the snow, making sure that people can get to the door at least. And so he never had to worry about that. He never had to worry about who's going to open the church, who's going to lock the church up. Even at the building that we had now, my pastor had never had to cut the grass. He never had to do any of that, even during these times, because when you have a heart, not just for the church, but for the people, and you have a heart for the pastor, there's a lot of things that pastor has never had to do. Some things I didn't even have to go to my pastor for, because I knew what his vision was. I knew what his heart was for the ministry. And so some things I was able to do because I had built that relationship with him, and had spent that time learning him how to do things that operate. And so the other side to that, and it's also hard that it struck me to, is when we find ourselves serving in ministry, and I'm speaking from the pew side or from the preacher, not pastor side, sometimes conflict can arise. And sometimes, from my experience, the conflict is not always because there's an issue. Sometimes the conflict is just because we tired, we burned out, we've done too much. And I'll be the first one to say that I went to my pastor and said, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm working, I'm not outside the church. I work full-time job, and, I got a wife, got son, got family. And, I'm here at the church doing everything, preparing for Sunday. People don't know the preparation that goes in. It's like, I'm tired. And, and I know that we have what we call the faithful few, but the other few, they done quit. They burned out. They done quit already. So it's just me. And so it's like, I'm tired. And so sometimes that feeling of tired and burned out creates conflicts that are really not conflicts. It's just the issue is that we're tired. So we nitpicking at every little thing. We find it something almost to seem like to be upset and mad about. I remember when we were at our building on Grand River, and we decided to put our building on the market, sell our building, and things happened much faster than what we expected. So I wasn't for selling the building, and this is no secret. I eventually had this conversation with my pastor. I told him, I said, I wasn't for selling the building. We sold our building. Things happened so fast that we end up going to worship at a hotel for a whole year. And so in my mind, I'm not feeling some kind of way. I'm upset with my pastor. I'm upset with the leaders. I'm like, this don't make no sense. We had a building, no mortgage, everything was good. We're going to sell our building and have to go worship at a hotel. This backwards. Churches start in hotels and then they go out and get a building. And so we worshiped in a hotel for a whole year. And the building that we had on Grand River, we didn't have a lot of money coming in. So there was maintenance had to be done in the building. It was falling apart. And so roof repairs and all those things were happening. So we sold the building, went to worship in a hotel for a year. And then we had a building that we went to look at. They wanted too much money for the building. So we stayed in the hotel, kept worshiping. And then they contacted our pastor and they dropped $50,000 off. And then we went and got that building with no maintenance, brand new building. They had just gutted the building, redid it. And for whatever reason, never had service in the building. So I'm upset, in my feelings, mad, because I'm like, we had it good over here. We didn't have no mortgage. We were good over here. And now we're about to take on the mortgage over here and still have these other bills. Got all this grass to cut. Like, who gonna cut the grass? And I knowing there's gonna end up being me. But the thing that helped me was that I eventually went to my pastor and I told him, I said, I'll be honest, I wasn't for selling the building. I wasn't. Didn't want something. I didn't want to come to church, all because I'm in my feelings, and created a conflict that really wasn't a conflict. But after I had that conversation with him, it helped me. And I, of course, I had to pray about it too, because I was really mad. And just being honest, I had typed up a letter of resignation. I was ready to go. And I'm like, this ain't me. I've been here this long. Out of all the other stuff that happened, I'm going to let this one thing, this one conflict that I created cause me to change everything. And if I would have made that move, all the experience and learning that I had, I would have missed out on all of that. And so what I'm saying is, when we're talking about conflict, is that sometimes we have to take a moment and step back and realize that it's bigger than us. That some things that we're making conflicts really ain't conflicts. We don't have to always agree. But one thing that I learned through the experience is that even when we disagree with our pastor leaders, we still have the responsibility to serve. And so if we let conflict be the reason that we stop serving, then we have to ask ourselves the question, who are we originally serving in the first place? And I believe that we are to help our pastors, serve our leaders, but I believe that our servanthood has to go past the pastor. It's bigger than the pastor. It's bigger than the man or the woman of God that we see there. And so the question that I would just like to ask and raise is, how do we serve in leadership roles or in the church at all? How do we continue to come to a church when we disagree with when we have a conflict or issue? Do we address that conflict or issue? Do we keep it to ourselves and talk to other people about it? And I know these answers somewhat, but I just want to get other people's opinion on them. How do we handle conflict when we are still in a role we're serving in the church? How do we address those things? Do we go to the pastor? Do we go to other leaders? How do we handle that?
Well, Pastor Oliver, I'll start here. I think that it is human nature that we get angry, that we get upset. One of the things that I learned, when I didn't agree with my pastor, I did not go and talk to other leaders in the ministry because I recognized that it would fuel or fan the flame, if you will, versus this is not right and it shouldn't be done that way. I had to find one person who I valued, who was not even a part of the ministry, who I felt that I could confide in. And when I began to talk to this senior leader, they shared some things with me that really helped me. Here were a couple of things. Number one, you need to really find out, why is this thing or these things like pushing you just over the edge? Second of all, you're going to have to deal with how you feel before you can even go to your pastor. Because if you go now, you're going to go wrong. And once you go wrong, you can't take it back. But again, we learn things along the way. We learn, we don't always master that when we should or how we should. So we learn these things along the way. And then can your leader even hear what you're saying? How you say it makes all the difference. It's better than what you say. Do I think that sometimes some people in leadership should take a break? Yes, I do. Now, I know that's not the old way of thinking. But if you're no good to yourself in operation, you're no good to the leader, you are now spilling over. People in your household know that you're mad. Folk that when you come to church, you can't stand to see them. I want my service to be honored from God, first of all. And if I can't do that, it is okay that I take a break. I might need to. Maybe the church issue or the issue with the pastor is one thing on a pile of a whole lot of other things. Maybe the weight that I carried at one time and did it willfully, maybe now I can't do it for whatever reason. There are more challenges in your home. There's more demands on your job. At this stage of the game, you didn't expect to be here. I mean, whatever the reasonings are or how that is set up, it doesn't matter. The point is, I'm talking about where you are as the person. Do I think at some point you should come to the leader? Yes. Some things I found I can resolve internally. Like I can deal with this. Other things I felt like I needed to come, but I could come without being argumentative or saying I quit, I throw in the towel, I'm done with this because now I've dealt with this. Is it okay to say you feel like throwing in the towel? Yes, I think it's okay. Is it okay to say I feel like I want to resign? I think it is. I think that you've got to give your leaders space to be able to say that. But I think it's okay that they take a break. I have said to Elder Carlton on many occasions, go home, just go home. Matter of fact, don't even come today. Don't come. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Take your kids out to the park. Take Kelly out to dinner or something. Go do something else. I'm okay because I know his heart. His heart is in the right place.
And I
But
ain't come
he's
here.
human.
I did not come. I left.
He did
I'm
not.
still
He
right.
did not. He did not. But you know what? I was okay with it. I was perfectly okay, because this is what I believe, Pastor. Not only would he be in that place of burnout, his wife is too. And it is important to me as a leader that is peace in his house. I don't want him to serve me well in his house is all in disarray. I want peace
Well,
in his house. So
say
go.
that.
Hold on.
So you guys go do something, please. When we first started, there were times I would say, here, take this money, go buy a flower and a Snickers, do something, buy a dress, do anything, do anything, because you're the last one to leave the church, which means she's the last one to leave the church. You're the first one there, which means she's the first one there. I'm not going to hear, I'm tired of being here all day, but you are. So I have to care enough that you're hearing that to go do something else. I'm like, take a break. Call me in a couple of weeks. Let me know how you're feeling. Now, again, some leaders might say that was a bad move. I think it was needed. I think it was needed. In that space and time, I think it was needed.
I just want to say to everyone who is listening that what you are listening to is the wisdom of a seasoned servant who actually loves and cares for her people
Right.
more than loving and caring for her own ambition.
Wow.
And Bishop Dora Scott is a rare gift to the body of Christ in that. The things that she just said is absolutely phenomenal, but they indicate a servant's heart. Her title as bishop has not gone to her head and swollen her ego so that she feels that everything is about her. Pastor Oliver, you said so many things. I want to refer to the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 23. It's one of my favorite verses. Because you do know that the senior leader gets tired too. The only difference between the senior leader and everybody else is that everybody else, when they get tired, they can take a break. The senior cannot. So what do you do when you have to keep going? Colossians 3 and 23 is a great help for me. I'm gonna read it out of the Amplified. I said I was gonna read it out the Amplified. Where'd it go? Hallelujah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll read there. Whatever you do, whatever your task may be, work from the soul. That is, put in your very best effort. And here is the key: as something done for the Lord and not for men. See, we have made the church so much about the pastor that if people get upset with the pastor, they feel that their only choice is to leave or destroy the church. We must differentiate between the set woman or set man of God and the church of God. I am a flawed human being.
Right. Yes, sir.
Licensed, ordained,
yes, sir.
consecrated, and spiritually mature.
And flawed.
I am still
I am flawed. I am
a
flawed.
flawed human being. At some point, I'm going to anger you. At some point, I am going to disappoint you. It does not mean that I am not anointed and appointed by God. It simply means I am a flawed human being just like you. Now, here's something else that I think is very important. Whenever we talk about conflict, we end up talking about the way somebody feels. You can't have conflict without people feeling some kind of way. I preached a message years ago. I don't know if it was a favorite message of the people of Spirit and Truth, but it was one of my favorite messages of all time. Dead men don't feel. The Bible says that we're to crucify our flesh, put our flesh under subjection. Paul said, I die daily.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a church full of people who are in their feelings, well, how come you ain't dead yet? You cannot have conflict and be dead to the flesh. Conflict is an indication that flesh is ruling over spirit, because God is not the author of confusion. So you can't have the spirit of God ruling and conflict taking over the place. Now, don't say that I said something I didn't say. There will be conflict. There will be issues. But when those issues come to the forefront, when those issues become paramount in a ministry, it is or in a relationship between leaders, it is an indication that flesh is on parade. And everybody, instead of trying to kill the other person, needs to become suicidal and crucify our own flesh. When I have been in the situation that I was serving leaders that I did not agree with, I leaned on Colossians 3:23. Whatever I'm called upon to do, I'm going to do it with all my might, and I'm going to do it as unto the Lord and not unto man. And when I feel myself getting in my feelings, I'm going to deal with me. Crucify my flesh, get my emotions out of the way. Because here's something that my father, Reverend J. Williams Sr., taught me years ago. My daddy said that if the preacher is wrong, but you follow him right, you're still going to be blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But if the preacher is right and you go wrong, you're in trouble. My daddy said the first part, I added the last part. The other thing that I want to say, because when Bishop Scott first met me, one of the things she didn't understand about me, I wasn't preaching then, but I'm the kind of silly bishop. I like to laugh. Pastor Oliver, you said something that would have made my father turn over in his grave twice. And it's kind of funny to me, but it's also an indication of where we are. You talked about the salary of the janitor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the old part of me says, oh my God, there's so many things wrong with that. See, there was no janitor at the Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church.
Right.
On Friday, the women of the church just met up at the church.
Yeah.
And they just took care of stuff. Right. Since we were at the church all day on Sunday, after the second service, they'd say, if they wasn't too tired, they say, hey y'all, come on, let's at least get to sanctuary, and then that way we won't have so much to do Friday night.
Right.
A janitor with a salary? What we need that for?
We've come a long way.
But we've come a long way. And it's good and bad. Because again, those people, they weren't leaving no
value.
Church.
Right.
Right. They weren't leave the church. No. I got too much invested here. I've swept the floor between every one of them pews. What you talking about? Leave the church?
Yeah.
Our church sat on 3 lots, and on either side of the church there was a full lot that was nothing but grass, and nothing but grass in the back. And my daddy bought a house in the next block. So, as a teenager, who cut the grass at the church. Until one day, Brother Pettis was driving up the street because he lived a little further down on Lumpkin. I saw him when he passed. I waved. He backed up and said, "We're going to change this summer." So what happened that summer? All the men showed up. He said, what do you do it every? I said, well, I like to do it every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock so that I can get it done out the way. Because, that's what they taught us, the Bishop Scott. We got our chores out the way.
That's right, early.
Right. And so the men, they all started showing up. And they cut the grass. You can't get people to do that kind of thing now. Because people just want to come to church. They don't want to be the church. And they want everything in place for them when they get there. Our mothers knew that everything was going to be in place because they put it in place.
Friday
and Saturday night.
Friday and Saturday. That's true. And the children of those workers in the church, they were there. We were there. We were there. We served, we worked. Pastor Oliver, like you talk about your grandmother, Moses, you talk about, that's what we did. We knew that. Now there is no value for that. They expect to do it. They didn't clean the bathroom. They didn't shovel the snow. They didn't. And you will even take into consideration, like even during the pandemic, because we have not been in the building as such. People don't think about, okay, well, in the summertime, we got those other lots over there. The grass has got to be cut. It snowed. It snowed recently. They don't think about, okay, well, you might not be in the building, but the snow still has to be shoveled.
Yes.
They don't think about, well, yeah, okay, well, the water isn't being used, but you still got to have water. You still got to have heat in the, so they don't think about.
And somebody need to go in the building and let the water run every now and then so that it don't sit up in your pipes when you come back.
Right. So nobody wants to think about those kinds of things. We just want it done. So I pray for Pastor Norman, I pray for you guys who are coming on board as new pastors, because you're meeting and seeing some challenges that we were not privy to, because we did come from an era where the people took care of the church, down to pastor's anniversary. I don't care how many days he was having it. We were there. It didn't matter. What do you mean you didn't give to the pastor's anniversary? What do you mean you didn't give to the pastor's birthday? What do you mean? Unheard of. We knew the first Sunday was coming. So the second Sunday, we were getting ready for the next first Sunday. And that's just what we did. Now you have a totally different culture. And I think now we've got to learn how to not lose all of the old, but take some of that old and transform it into this new for the smooth transition from then to now. I say don't abandon everything. You don't throw all your hymn books out. You still need to have an at the cross every now and again. You still need to have some of that. Even if you got all of the Travis Green, you still got to have some of that, because it helps to give balance, and it helps to teach, and it helps to train, and it helps them most of all to have a love for the ministry. We wouldn't walk over paper at the church. We wouldn't walk over that. But Pastor Oliver, you are faced with, and Minister Moses, Elder Carlton, you all are serving now in a totally different generation. My prayers go out to you, because I plan to be on a cruise ship or something while y'all are doing all of this. I bless you in Jesus' name. I'm going to watch remotely from social platforms. That's my plan. I'm going to be in Italy somewhere cruising the world, and typing in amen and sending in my offering electronically. That's my plan.
Ooh,
Well, amen. Hey,
I
look.
think you shut him down, Bishop.
Yeah, she did.
That's my
She did.
plan.
I see.
That's my plan.
Every time she says that, I just shake my head and just keep it going. I'll be like,
Okay. Okay, you've been warned. That's all I got to say.
And that's my
You've been warned.
on that note, since she gave me a warning shot, this has been a great dialogue. Y'all don't know Bishop. She give you warning. That's it. And that her warning is that's what her final say. So anyway, this has been a great conversation. I want to continue this conversation. Maybe we bring this back up in the month of April. We come back on here and we talk about the real issues that we are facing in leadership, the real issues that we are facing with generational, from one generation of pastorship to the next generation of pastorship, and how we can bridge the gap and merge it to where there is a nice handoff, like in the relay race. I know Bishop has been running, and now I'm sitting there like with my hand out, and I need to get off with a good start. So I want to go and talk about the relay rally, passing of the baton from one generation of pastoralship to the next one, because we have Pastor Norman, we got Moses here. It's the passing of the baton right now and the torch. So let's talk about that on the next one. And again, thank y'all so much. So what I want to do is give me 1 minute closing remarks from everyone of what you would like to share for the audience on today. Thank everybody at the audience. Thank you for staying in. I see the comment section blowing up. I really appreciate it. Go like the Congress of Service page. We've been doing dialogue like this every month. We got our singles conversation. We have our mental health conversation. We have our leadership conversation. We got a lot of different conversations that's going to be coming up leading up to the conference. So again, like the page. I really appreciate you. You also can find this on YouTube later on. All right. So I want to lead off with my friend all the way from New Jersey. He does not have none of these issues that's going on in this Metro Detroit area. He did not know what was going on. He was just sitting there.
Problem in Jersey. That's what it is. Y'all were talking about me.
Oh, they were talking about you. All right. I want to leave with him. He's going to lead us off with our closing remarks, and then we're going to go to Pastor Norman, and then to Bishop Williams, then to Bishop Scott for closing.
There are a couple of things I could say as it relates to conflict, and Bishop Williams said this. He said there's going to be conflict, and I think one of the positives I like to call it constructive conflict, because whenever there is conflict, communication can always bring resolution to that particular conflict, and it can sometimes bring about change. So I think the thing with conflict is that when it goes unresolved, when there is no communication, the emotions that go along with the conflict begin to fester in one's heart and can then become destructive. That's one thing. Dr. Scott said something. He talked about the culture changing and not throwing away the hymnals in the old school way. HGTV is one of my favorite networks. I love watching new home, building new home renovations. And one thing that I've learned from watching those particular shows is that you can reconstruct an entire home and never touch its foundation. As long as we hold the foundation, Jesus says that he says, upon this rock, right? Upon this rock, I will build my church. Upon this revelation, I will build my church. And so we have to understand that as long as we're building the church on the revelation of who Jesus is, cultures may vary, systems may change, but as long as Jesus Christ is the foundation, we're going to be all right. I'm done. It's been a pleasure with all the seasoned saints here, man. I actually felt like the newbie, and really appreciate the wisdom that you all have shared, and just really glad to be a part. Elder Honey, man, thank you for having me.
So the host and the panelists can share.
Hey, I ain't, how you just gonna come on here and start preaching? I ain't like that, man. Don't do that. Come on now. Don't do that to us. Don't do that to us, Parker. Don't do that to us. All right, come on, Pastor Norman.
I've been doing a great. I think it's been a great conversation. Great information has been shared amongst us all to help us all become better. I believe that one of the main things I have shared tonight is that Minister Moses commented on it too, is that conflict, we have to address the conflict. The moment that we continue to let stuff sit there and build up, then eventually it's going to be an explosion at some point. And that explosion could have been avoided if we would have just addressed the issue before, but we let stuff sit and fester in us, and then that blows up. Proverbs 15:18 says, a hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. And so I believe that if we have the conversation and we come with patience, the ability to be able to listen and not just speak, that we can resolve some things, understand that we may not always agree. We may have two different opinions on it, but I believe that at least we should be able to get an understanding of each other's perspective. And even if we still don't agree, at least get an understanding so that you then know how to handle each other, how to handle that particular matter, and still can move forward together. There was times where the disciples didn't agree with everything that Jesus did. They still followed him. And so I believe that we have to realize that there can still be disagreements, but we still can move forward together, because as Bishop Williams has spoken so much about tonight, that it's bigger than us. And as he said, we do it to the glory of God, then believe that at the end of the day that God can be pleased, our churches can be better, our ministry can be better, our families can be better when we have the right aspect and realize that it's just bigger than just us. God bless you all.
Amen. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 18 says, now all things are of God, who has reconciled us to himself through Jesus Christ and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Conflict is inevitable, but whenever conflict arises, we should remember that God has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Conflict has always been a part of the church, but be encouraged, for what Jesus said was, upon this rock, upon this foundation, Brother Parker, that I'm not going to forget that. Upon this foundation, I'm going to build my church. And no matter what the conflict, no matter what the trouble, no matter what the era, no matter what the challenges of the time or the culture, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Thank you for allowing me to be a part. Thank you for anytime I get the pleasure to sit on a panel with Bishop Dora Scott, I consider it a blessing. I'm grateful for tonight. And Minister Carlton, I just want to say this before I surrender the microphone. Thank you for your faithfulness to your woman of God. I have watched you down through the years, and there is no better person for the Holy Spirit to have given this mantle for this Congress of Servants than Carlton Honey, because you, sir, have served the woman of God well, and you are as much a gift to the body of Christ as the bishop that you serve. Bless you both.
Amen.
I wanted to say in closing that even though we have challenging flaws, we still have the opportunity for a changing future. I'm excited about where we have come from, but I'm more excited about where we're going as a church. It is going to look different. I'm excited that the Lord has allowed me to live long enough to be able to talk about that I was a part of the change. And it is changing me. I thank you, Elder Carlton, and to all of these fine men of God who have shared your thoughts and impartation with the people, but as well what you have imparted to me. I want to say in closing, and I certainly thank Bishop Williams. We go way back, long before pastoring or anything of that nature. And he saw some things in me that I did not even see in myself, and was, in fact, quite infuriated about it. And that's another story for another time. But I am thankful, and I think it is a blessing to understand that you don't always see the best or potential in yourself, that God will allow others around you to see something in you that you haven't even cultivated yet. And so I want to thank Bishop Williams for that, for extending to us, even in the start of what we call this ministry and shaping it. Thank you. Certainly to Elder Carlton, who I am proud to call my son, who has weathered and stood. And I agree with Bishop Williams, if there's anybody that can teach people how to serve when it's good, when it's bad, when it's up, when it's down, under adversity, you have done so. But I think one of the greatest things that I have imparted to him is this, and I will never forget this. I don't know if he recalls, but there was a time when all of the other preachers and everybody, Bishop Williams, had a hoop and a squall. And it was clear to me that he was not that kind of preacher. And I said to him, be okay with who you are. Be okay with what God has given you. Cultivate and develop the way God has given it to you, and you will be a blessing to the people if you do it the way God has told you to do it. And so tonight, sir, you have exhibited that you're doing it the way God has given it to you. And so I'm honored. I pray for Pastor Oliver. We pray for you as you are taking on this new venture. The Minister Moses, man, I honor you and appreciate you. It is because of people like you that we are able to stand. So we don't take that for granted. I look forward to the next round of this and continue to pray, as we would say in the old church, may the Lord watch. That's what we would say. And I used to laugh at that as a kid because I didn't really understand the value. But now I'm older, I understand. May the Lord watch. That's what we would say. Between, y'all know it. Y'all know it. Betwixt and betwixt one another while we're absent. That's what we would say, while we're absent one from another.
From the other.
And so wherever your ministry will take you, I yet pray for you that the Lord will grant you favor in this season of pandemic, and whatever your ministry will be as we progress through this time of transition, that God's favor would be on your life. Bless you tonight, sir.
All right, bless everyone. Thank you so much, Bishop Williams, for those kind words. You know, you were like, you the one, when I first got back into going to church, you was my first bishop. And I really appreciate you, all the lessons that you have taught me. And I'm still watching you. I still learning from you. I'm still learning from afar. Like, that's Bishop Williams. Whatever he said, I like that. I like what he says. I really appreciate you.
Gotta follow him on Facebook to see some of those good posts he be making.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. You know, he's the only one that I knew. He's the GQ bishop. You know what I'm saying? He give you this, he give you that, and that was it. And there's the post, and you be like, that's GQ bishop right there. So I really appreciate his grace. I love this man of God. And to my bishop, you know, I love her. She's my spiritual mom. We've been through everything. I let everyone know this. There has been some moments where we had some dog out moments.
Jesus.
Some crying moments.
Jesus.
Crying, like real tears. Like,
real tears.
Well, that hurted me and that hurted you. I mean, some dog, I don't cry. And when me and her, we have those moments, it hurts. And that's how I know it's true love, because it hurt both of us to see each other like that. And that's how I know that she really loves me and I really love her, because we can cry together and dust each other off and say, all right, let's go get something to eat. And that's it. And that'd be it. You know, that's our relationship. And I'm still waiting on some sweet potato pie and putting it
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not the Campbells. Okay.
No, sir. No, sir. Homemade.
And,
yes, sir.
And I appreciate both of you for being in my life, because both of you have poured into me and made the foundation of Congress of Service, Bishop Williams and Bishop Scott. So I appreciate both of you. My brothers, Norman,
Bless you, man.
You're not my bishop's favorite. I just want you to know that. You can have that title if you want to. And Minister Parker, I love you, bro. I can't get back with you again.
Really,
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Honestly, really humbled to be a part. Seriously.
All right. So next time in April, we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about passing the baton and making sure that we don't drop the baton. That's the key thing. Don't drop it. So we're gonna talk about that next month. All right.
All right.
Again, everyone on Facebook. See y'all later. Until next time. God bless you.
God bless you. Good night.
God bless you.
Here.